Yo, yo, yo. What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of McKale Madness. I'm Saul Bookman. That's Corey Williams. I got it right last week. I got it wrong this week. Damn it. Thank you all for joining us in the house for another week. Another undefeated week, Corey. 2-0 against another set of Big 12 opponents, this time at home against UCF and Baylor. How was your week and how have you been?
My week's been hectic working, but I've been good. Good start to the year. I've covered some really good games, had some fun on the mic covering these games. But like any other Wildcat fan, excited about the trajectory the Cats currently are on. I'll use that word.
It's pretty dope. It's pretty dope. We just start right there. Listen, I was there for UCF. Unfortunately, couldn't make it down there yesterday, but I just against UCF, I wasn't like happy. I kind of felt like Tommy. Like I felt like there was just too many lapses where they allowed a team that I felt like was inferior stay in the game and get back and make these runs back in the game. And Tommy let him have it after the game, and I was pleasantly surprised with that because it was unexpected because it's just not Tommy's style to kind of go off the way he did. But I liked what he had to say, basically holding guys accountable, holding Caleb Love accountable. And saying they just get too lax and too sloppy. And then yesterday, as great as they performed, they had a little bit of a slip up as well, but they had such a big lead that it didn't really matter. They basically controlled that game from start to finish.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that the coaches have to do, all coaches have this issue, is you got to have the big picture and small picture simultaneously. So you're looking at the big picture of, hey, guys, remember 3 or 4 weeks ago, people were talking, wondering if we were going to make the damn tournament. Okay, so we've won some games, but you come out against UCF and you play like trash. So he's got to try to keep things trending in the right direction, but you still got to nitpick on the details because the details are what are going to cost you in the long run. Arizona put themselves in a situation where they don't have a whole lot of room for error, even in league play. They did get the win against UCF, but he saw things that will get you beat in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And that's what it's about. Trust me, folks, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I can tell you this. Every freaking year, the Cowboys play a couple of games that show you who they really are. And your job as a fan is to figure out which games was it. Was it the game where they won by 40, or was it the game where they threw 3 interceptions and got beat by somebody that shouldn't even been in the game? Tommy is on the lookout for bad habits at this point. Momentum is good. They're winning. They're playing completely different than they were a month ago. But you got to stomp out these bad habits because, as you know, Saul, kids love to read their own press. They get in their phone. Everybody's giving them praise. And then all of a sudden, maybe I'll close out. Maybe I won't box out. Maybe I won't call that screen defensively. You got to go to war against those bad habits and keep them from setting in.
Yeah, I totally agree. Listen, I think overall you got to be happy that the Wildcats were able to bounce back and win 7 straight. And I think at the end of the day, it's promising that a couple things are happening. One, you're not playing your cleanest basketball all the time, and you're still finding ways to win. Number two, you're finding ways to win without Caleb Love really being a factor offensively at a high level, like the way you expect him to be. And then the third I would even throw in is that you have some guys that are starting to step up their game that you weren't really expecting to step up their game in the name of Carter Bryant, Henry Vasar, and KJ Lewis. I think those 3 guys have really stepped it up a notch in the absence of, to some degree, Caleb Love. And that is encouraging because if any of those at any point, if everything comes together, everything's going to be all gravy. And there is a comment here. Daniel Silvera, the vibes of this channel have gone down without my MC Luke and Sheer. Listen, if you're new to this channel, I'm sorry, but Mike Luke is doing his own thing with Sheer on a different channel. And we support them and we wish them nothing but the best of luck, but they've never been a part of this particular show. So sorry. On top of that, listen, I think the biggest thing that I take away from this 2-game set is defensively, Arizona has definitely ratcheted it up. And last night, the physicality Arizona showed and really the pressure that they put on Baylor really pushed Baylor to their limit and made them kind of get out of whack. And they were missing bunnies because they were rushing. And that's a testament to the defensive pressure that Arizona was putting. Arizona got a little lax in the second half. Baylor started feeling a little more comfortable, and you saw that's why they came back. And so I want to see that first half version of that more, because that was probably the best half of basketball Arizona's played all season.
Well, two things are true about what you said. One, Baylor, Arizona State took them to the wire in an overtime game just a few days before. So they're coming down already looking to play 7 players. They kind of limped across the finish line against Arizona State and were able to escape. And I use that word literally. They escaped with a win. And then they came down against Arizona, and their best player got 2 fouls in 66 seconds. And if you've ever played high-level basketball, you know that is a death sentence right there. That's a wrap. I said, I can't believe he's going to the bench. So Arizona took full advantage of that. Baylor got away with switching everything against Arizona State. Arizona was very smart. Every time they switched, they punished them inside. They found the mismatches, and they played complementary basketball. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. But the start to that game, Arizona moved the ball very well, and then they hit a couple of haymaker threes. I think they hit 3 threes in a row that kind of pushed the lead out, and then they never looked back. Baylor was too good to get blown out by 25, so I'm not surprised they tightened it up in the second half. But that was a very good win for Arizona for a ton of different reasons that we can touch on. But primarily, going back to your other point, the guys that are stepping up, you had to. They take Caleb off the board as a chess piece. Who else is going to beat you? Well, in the last 4 games, Arizona has answered that question.
Yeah.
Who's going to beat you? Jaden will beat you. KJ will beat you. The big fella, Visar will beat you. Toby will beat you. These weren't guys that were stepping up in the first 7-8 games of the season. And now we're going into Cincinnati. We're going into West Virginia. We're coming at home against Baylor, and these guys are showing up and say, okay, fine. Caleb, you don't have to shoot crazy shots. You don't have to make 7 threes for us to win. You just come out here and hoop, and if they continue to try to freeze you out, then they're going to have to deal with us. That's complimentary basketball, and that's why Arizona's on a roll right now.
When Omier came out of the game, he was really their size to some degree. And my favorite thing about yesterday's game was immediately they go to Trey Townsend right there at the top of the key. He takes a couple dribbles and he bodies the defense and hits that bucket. And you could kind of feel like that's the way. Listen, Baylor is undersized right now, and as strong and as physical as they can be, you got to take advantage of that size right now. Like, you can't wait for Omier to kind of figure his way back into the lineup, and then all of a sudden they get settled in. No, you got to attack. You got to attack. And then the inside-outside game of what Arizona was really trying to do, that is great basketball. That was high-level basketball. You understood the assignment, and more importantly, and that's what I love to see. Conversely to that, on the offensive side, I just really felt like they just had a good flow in that first half, even though it wasn't crisp. Like, it still felt a little herky-jerky from time to time, because Baylor will make you feel like that because they're a good defensive team. But overall, I really thought that Arizona was able to weather those storms and really fight through that physicality. They weren't soft. They weren't soft with the ball. And you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes guys, when they get physical or out physicaled, they either try to flop so they can get the foul, or they just are too loose and then they get ripped. Arizona wasn't having that yesterday, and it was kind of case in point that last play of the first half when Jaden Bradley basically weaved through 5 guys all the way to the basket for the and one. That was very encouraging. I love that.
Yeah, and I like the body language of the team. One of the things that I think they've stumbled upon is, we versus, just Caleb Love shooting a bunch of shots. They feel like we are going to beat you however we have to beat you. If it's going to be Visar in the paint, fine, whatever. If it's going to be KJ coming off screens and curling, we'll do that too. This team is committed to doing anything they have to do to get a win. And you can tell because when a guy shoots and makes it, it's obvious, you high five and you celebrate as you go back on D. But when a guy shoots and misses, nobody says anything. They don't care, because for this team, I think the open guy the guy who's got the highest percentage to score, that's the guy we're going to use. And that, for a coach, is extremely refreshing when there's no fighting over the ball offensively. This Arizona team is comfortable with the bigs having an impact. They're comfortable with the ball in KJ's hands. They're comfortable with the ball with Bradley getting downhill. And they're comfortable with Caleb Love pulling up with a heat check from beyond the arc. So if you're the opposing coach or the opposing team, they've got you where they wanted you. Who are you going to guard? You got to guard a Saul. That's a stronger Arizona team than the one we saw 2 or 3 weeks ago.
When Arizona was 4-5, and last week, Corey, you made a great point last week when you talked about Tommy isn't saying anything different than he did at the beginning of the season. It's the same message from game 1 to game 16. And I don't think a lot of people believe that sometimes because they don't see the results, or they think, oh, you got to make all these adjustments. Like, listen, like, the one thing about John Wooden that I always loved was it wasn't about the wins or the losses. It was always about the process. Are you going about the process the right way? Are you doing all the little things that matter in a game to get you a win? And that is exactly what I think Arizona is starting to slowly do game after game after game. These small little things. Even Carter Bryant, right? Listen, Carter Bryant, I think the world of him. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to nitpick some players, right? But Carter Bryant yesterday, I'm watching him for like maybe about 5 or 6 straight possessions. And there are reasons why he doesn't play as much as he should, because there are certain small little lapses from time to time that maybe you just don't notice because you just see that, it's a wide open layup. You're like, whose fault is that? And the closest guy to him is maybe KJ, because KJ tried to help out on the weak side, right? So you're like, oh, KJ's not playing great defense. No. Carter lost his man. KJ tried to help, and that's what happened, right? But in the second half, Carter, man, defensively, way with it. Much better all the way around. He was one of the few that I thought defensively did not back down at all, in addition to Trey Townsend, who physically, I thought Trey Townsend physically was as good as he's ever been in that game against Baylor, because he was going up against Omier, who's a much bigger dude, stronger dude, but he was holding his own. He was holding his own. He was trying to body him up and push him out and make him uncomfortable, forced him to take shots that he's not comfortable with. And I just thought overall, that's the kind of small improvement that you need to make from game 1 to game 2, all the way to game 30 before you get to the tournament, because those small little things, as you know, Corey, especially, that's the separator between the NCAA tournament and the Big 12 setting us up for the NCAA tournament, because I think Arizona got away with some sloppy stuff, I think, in the past, because of the level of competition was a little lower. And now you have got to be on point from minute 1 to 40. Otherwise, you will lose these games. It doesn't matter if you're playing Iowa State or if you're playing Kansas State. It does not matter. You've got to come with it every single day. So the small things are just so great to see.
They are great to see. And the challenge is, you can throw away what Carter Bryant does on offense. Just throw that out for a second. How do you get him reps in competitive collegiate basketball games where he's coming out of high school? He's going to make mistakes. How do you get him reps so that when February and March come around, he's solid and he's ready to go when it's tournament time? He's going to be out there playing against juniors and seniors who've got thousands of more hours than he does. So how do you develop him? Well, here's how you do it. You get up 20, and then you can slide him in. And he's not going to hurt you because you got a 20-point lead. And if he makes a mistake, it's not the end of the world. It's not a high leverage moment. So you take these instances where Arizona builds a lead. Tommy does a great job of getting him out there so he can get the reps under his belt, get his confidence together, and it makes all the difference. And for a lot of people who feel like, the coaches should change what they're saying or change what they're doing, here's a fun fact. The quickest way to lose your team as a college coach is to change up your message. You can't do it. If you change up, you are the de facto leader of the program. If you've been preaching something in the beginning of the season, you can't switch up your message during the middle because it signals a lack of confidence in your own scheme. And that's the quickest way to lose the locker room. That's the quickest way to lose the team. That's the quickest way to kill your momentum. Coach Jimmy Boeheim at Syracuse played the 2-3 zone for 40 years. There was no secret about what you were going to do if you played at Syracuse. The way Lute Olson coached, the reason I'm an analyst for ESPN, All I do is repeat the stuff Coach O drilled in my head for 4 years because he never changed. It never changed. So Tommy Lloyd has been giving the same message. The only difference is, to what Saul said, it's being received and it's being executed. And that's why you saw at the tip at Baylor. Did you see his body language? Tommy was leaning back against, he just, all right, guys, you guys got the recipe now. You finally see that what I've been saying works. The scoreboard bears it out. And I think that's where Arizona was a little bit fragile. They were playing all these tough games, but the scoreboard wasn't giving them the result on top of the effort. Now they're putting forth the effort and they're getting the win. And Tommy's like, okay, guys, let's just stay on track. Now the train's on the track. All Tommy has to do, keep shoveling coal and everything will be fine. Do not let guys get off script and try to keep developing the young players like Carter Bryant.
We're going to talk about some of the positives moving forward, what we could take away from this 7-game stretch, a 7-game win streak, and 5-0 in the conference after this break. Listen, folks, one of the biggest things about wins and losses is that it can happen in life, in real life too. And one of the ways you can win or lose is by going with a good or a bad realtor. And one of the ways you can avoid that is going with Carol Royce and her team. Her team is fantastic. Like I've said before, she's one of the best real estate agents in the game. Her squad is undefeated. They will get you the top dollar for your house if you're trying to sell. They will find you the best deal possible if you're trying to buy. And if you would go with Carol Royce and it doesn't work out, guess what? She's still going to take care of you. Hell, she might even buy your house. That's exactly what Carol Royce and her team are all about. They're all about taking care of you, the consumer, to get the very best deal for your dream home or your temporary crib, whatever you want. They are going to hook you up. Carol Royce Realty is the place to go. If you're down here in the Valley, if you're down in Tucson, hell, give them a call and get their team involved, because I promise you they can help you out as well. So Carol Royce and her squad, call 480-776-5231 or visit carolroycerealty.com. That is the best place to go. I'm sorry, carolroyceteam.com. Best place to go to get the best deal in the state of Arizona. And then on top of that, if you buy the house, listen, I have a 2-car garage. My wife wanted a 3-car garage. I'm like, we don't have a 3rd car. Well, maybe we need to go to Sanderson Ford and buy a 3rd car. We don't need to. We're not doing that. But if you need a 3rd car, or you need to trade in your whip, 2025 is a new year, new deals coming across, and you can hook yourself up by going to Sanderson Ford, one of the top dealerships in the country, not just Arizona, in the country. Their customer service is premium. They have a diner. They have a whole facility where you can pick and choose the accessories that you could throw on your vehicle, and they can customize everything the way you want it right off the bat, and they can lump it into your loan so you don't have to pay out of pocket right off the bat. How about that? So Sanderson Ford out on the west side. Listen, from Tucson, I get it. It's a trek. Don't get me wrong. From the East Valley, it's a trek. Don't get me wrong. But I've been out there a couple times, and I'm telling you, it is worth the drive. It would be worth the drive if I was coming from all the way down in Douglas. I promise you that, because they are going to hook you up with the best deals right now. And one of those fantastic deals is 2025. You can get 0% APR financing for just over 36 months guaranteed. So go to Sanderson Ford, hook yourself up today. All right. A couple of comments I do want to say. First, folks, hit that like button. We really do appreciate you for coming and joining us on a 7 p.m. show tonight, Wednesday night. The next couple of weeks, we're going to be on Thursdays because Arizona plays on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Corey's got a game on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. So it's a little bit of both. And we're going to be back on Thursdays the next couple of weeks. Then we'll be back on Wednesdays. So just a little programming note for you. But also, we do appreciate you all for joining us. And make sure you subscribe to the McKale Madness podcast. It is its own podcast. It's not PHNX Wildcats or the AZ Wildcats podcast. It is the McKale Madness podcast. So please hit that 5-star and leave a review. We would really appreciate it. A couple comments in the chat from Pinto Beaner. It says, Saul, this podcast or YouTube show is great. Appreciate Corey's insight. His knowledge of the game is wonderful. Wholeheartedly agree. June Thomas is in the chat. Like button for Saul and Corey. Thank you so much. Joseph Davis. The hedges in the first half really disrupted the Baylor offense. Very hard hedges. And then they got back into their spot. Yeah, I totally agree. The defense on a whole another level last night. It was great to see. And then lastly, Max Vasar probably practicing putback dunks as we speak. He was all over the place last night. Had a couple great putback dunks, a couple at the key times as well. But we see you, McDeath, Lost Highway, The whole gang is here. We do appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Brian Kinsley as well. Brian has a comment that says positive improvements from public criticism. Tommy got them moving in the right direction. Absolutely. Again, these are the signs, the positive signs that you want to see. Even with a win, there are still things that you can improve upon, because the end goal is not to win game 15 or 16 of the season. It's to hoist a banner. It's to raise a championship trophy at the end of the season. That is the goal. And so there are small things that you need to improve as you move forward. Corey, as you watch this team, what are still some concerns that you have in terms of improvement? Because right now, your goal was 17-3 in the conference. They're 5-0. So we're talking, if they can go 12-3 the rest of the way, they're going to hit your goal.
It's definitely doable for this Arizona team. I've got them in a little bit at BYU in I think a week from now. I've got them at BYU, which will be a fun game. That's a great atmosphere. You asked me what my concerns are, and I'm almost scared to say this out loud on the cast, because God knows people could. If anything happens to Jaden Bradley,
no.
We have
barring injury. What are your concerns?
I'm not even talking about injury. I'm just talking about foul trouble. No, I'm not talking injury. I'm just saying.
Okay.
He is it. The offense is trash when he goes to the bench. I saw it against UCF, and I'm no disrespect, but the ball doesn't move. There's all this stagnant moving around. If you go back and watch Arizona play, there's a reason he plays 37 minutes, because the coaches know it too. And I don't want to say it publicly because I don't want the haters out there focusing on how to beat my Cats. But damn it, if Jaden Bradley goes to the bench, folks, watch the offense. It is a horror show, because he is the penetrate score, penetrate kick. He's the penetrate pass guy. And him and KJ kind of do the same thing. But that stability at the point that you're going to need in the Big 12, everybody's got tough point guards in the Big 12. So right now, it's not an Achilles heel, because he's been out there. He's an Iron Man. He plays hard. He turns in a great line every night, doesn't turn the ball over. He's running the show. We've shown we can win on a night where Caleb doesn't light you up. We've shown we can win without Townsend, Toby, and Visar having monster nights. We can win without Carter Bryant scoring a ton of points. We can win with KJ Lewis only making 4 shots, but he had 8 dimes. We can win so many different ways. The one way we have never been able to win is if Jaden Bradley don't show up. So that's the only concern I have. And luckily for us, he's an Iron Man. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think he's smart enough to stay out of foul trouble. He's a smart player, and I think he's been the most consistent player for us all season so far. I think that's going to continue. But if I was coming up against Arizona, I would certainly be trying to get him in some kind of foul trouble, because we're a completely different team without him on the court.
Jaden Bradley is just I don't know how to explain how important he is in terms of like just the overall history of this program. I feel like he's a combination of just so many different guards that we've had. But the biggest thing that always sticks out to me is Jaden Bradley is always composed. His poise is second to none. Yesterday, when things were getting a little bit rattled, he made one bad pass that got stolen for a layup on the other end. But outside of that, the press break from UCF to Baylor, much improved. And the reason why is because Jaden Bradley is a key instigator of that, right? They also moved the ball a little bit better against the press yesterday too, which obviously led to a dunk, which kind of, was a momentum killer for Baylor. But I just think Jaden Bradley's overall demeanor keeps everybody else chill, right? You mentioned a little bit ago about Tommy Lloyd. If Tommy Lloyd, or any coach for that matter, were to get in the middle of the season and things aren't going right, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're gonna stop pushing the tempo. We're gonna go slow, 4 out, 1 in offense, and we're gonna change everything. Like, the players would be like, what the hell? What's going on? Like, that causes panic. Jaden Bradley out there is just relaxed. Now, if Jaden Bradley ever started chucking up threes and just, throwing up wild shots, I think everybody else would start to panic too. Like, what is Jaden doing? He's kind of that coach on the floor, which is, it's kind of a cliche, but it's true. He's just really, really chill. And I really love that about him. I would say my one concern right now is just stopping the momentum of some of these big leads that get blown. And I think it's all like, if you watch the second half, they're all preventable, it feels like, early shots in the shot clock, like I'm talking about Trey Townsend and Caleb Love both took shots at like 23 seconds in the shot clock from three to try and play hero ball, basically, is what I kind of equated it to. Like, there were unnecessary shots. You hadn't even worked into the offense yet. There's like 13 minutes left to go. Just work the clock because you're up by 20 plus. There's no rush. You got all the control in the game right now. What are we doing? And then the lazy kind of passes. Corey, bro, I don't even understand it. I have never in my life just been like, all right, here you go. In at any level. No, you got to get that ball there because Big 12 athletes are really good. Those two things, in my opinion, were just so easily preventable. The defensive end, listen, sometimes you're going to get caught slipping. Sometimes guys are going to get the move on you. It's whatever. I thought the intensity could have been ratcheted up a little bit, but these big leads, it is going to catch him at one point, and you just hope it doesn't catch him at the wrong time, like in the tournament.
Well, first half against UCF, this is what I saw. It doesn't mean it's true. It's what I saw. And you know me, Saul, I'm crazy sometimes. So I see imaginary things.
Crazy Corey.
I saw these guys are feeling themselves. They're in their phones. Oh, they're loving us now. Oh, we've won 5 games now. Oh, here's a careless pass. I'm not going to box out. And Tommy had to snatch him out of that with his post-game comments because they had some success. And how you handle success makes all the difference. Do you keep your head down and keep doing what you've been doing? Or do you come out and play completely different than you have the past 4 times you stepped on the court? They were like you said, they were doing things they hadn't done in a long while. I felt like they played down to the competition of UCF. UCF made a lot of shots, but so did we. And in the end, we squeaked out an ugly 8-point win. They gave up 80 points on their home floor to a team that shouldn't have scored 80 points in McKale Center. That's why Tommy was a little bit upset. And the other thing is, and this is happening all across college basketball, and like everything under the sun, you can blame it on NIL and you can blame it on the transfer portal. When you see these runs take place and go back and forth and back and forth, the reason that you're seeing these runs in college basketball where team makes an 8-0 run, timeout, team claws back in the game, another team makes a run, most college basketball programs are operating with 7 people. 7 highly paid NIL compensated kids. And when you only can go 7 deep, you are subject to runs. Because what happened in the 90s, back 30 years ago, for the people who are too young to remember, you had a bench of 8 or 9. And what we used to do at Arizona was, okay, Corey, it's 12 minutes to go in the first half. We're up 16. We better be up 16 when I bring your ass out. That's the pressure that was put on bench players. You don't have a bench to do that anymore. So you pull out 2 or 3 of your big guns, and guess what happens to the scoreboard? Swing. And then the coach is sitting there sweating bullets like, I got to rest them, but I can't let too much of the lead slip away. And the other coach has got to deal with the exact same thing. So the lack of depth across college basketball is going to make the average fan just have nervous breakdowns because you won't be able to maintain leads the way you used to. The average college basketball fan, you're talking about adult my age, you've been a fan of basketball for 25, 30 years. You remember how it used to be. You got to recalibrate to how it is. You got 7 dudes and they get tired. And I don't know if you go zone or if you burn your timeouts, but sitting on a big lead, yeah, it's hard to do with only 7 guys.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bo Kimball ain't coming off that bench for Loyola Marymount anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just ain't happening, right?
Right.
The 5 in, 5 out that the Running Rebels did back in the with UNLV, that ain't happening anymore, right? Like, it's just that transition has definitely happened where you're going with 7. And also, Corey, I will say this too: there is also a school of thought, at least from my perspective, that coaches are less willing to go deeper into their bench and develop players. Like you talked about, when you're up by 20, all right, let me think. You have to be thinking of this, right? You can't just be set in your ways because this is just the way it is, right? as you go along the season, especially in the early part of the season when you're playing these cupcakes and stuff like that, you've got to actively think about opportunities for players to get some run and get some time on the court. And not only just from a development standpoint, but to keep them locked in, right? And I think that's the other part of this. If you look at some of these teams, and I'm not saying, coaches that don't do this are bad coaches by any means, but I don't think every coach approaches substitutions the same way. They can't, because they're all different. I think certain coaches like Tommy understand when the opportunity presents itself, when you can take that risk to get that reward later on in the season. And some coaches I just don't feel do that to that high of a degree. Also, the development of this, right? We talked about one of the things that I thought was great about what Jay Billis said about Mick Cronin was he pointed out something Mike Tomlin said. If a coach is constantly complaining and bitching about his players doing X, Y, and Z, he's just looking for an excuse to not coach. And I'm not saying that's the case with Cronin, because I know how you feel about that. But what I am saying is, yeah, there is a certain point to that. Like, yeah, that's why they pay you $5, $10, $15 million a year. You got to develop these players to a point where they can be reliable in the game. We're seeing it live right now as we speak with Carter Bryant specifically. He's getting some run. He's getting pulled out. He's getting some run. He's getting pulled out. And you could see the confidence building slowly but surely over the course of the season. By the time we get to March, maybe you're going to finally reap the fruits of that labor. That's the goal. But if you just go short-sighted and you're like, nope, he ain't got it, he ain't ever going to get it, that's it. You're probably cauterizing yourself before it's too late.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and we don't have to do a deep dive into Mick Cronin because I told you my thoughts on that. What's interesting to me is coaches have lived in the professional world their entire career. They have an agent, they get a contract, and they get paid. So it makes sense that they're the most fired up, that they're doing their job because they're adults and they understand professionalism. Someone is giving you money to perform a service. We have just recently scooped a bunch of 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids into this NIL mixture. They have no experience in professionalism. They don't know anything about it. So for a coach in his 30s, 40s, or 50s to be frustrated that a 19-year-old doesn't understand professionalism, you're wasting your time. He was never going to get it. He's 19. I didn't want to be a professional at 19. I mean, I wanted to go to the pros, but I didn't understand the weight that comes with taking someone's money and then them expecting a certain level of intensity, of professionalism, of effort. That's the frustration that a lot of coaches feel across the country. Now that NIL is real, they know what these guys are getting. They negotiated the deals with their agents. They know how much this kid is getting, and he's not fighting over a screen. They know how much this kid is getting, and he's not boxing out. And it's like, I get it. You're right. They're not living up to the professional ideology or whatever. But at the same time, they're 18, 19 years old. This is new to them too. To an NBA guy, your motivation is internal. You don't do these things, you get cut, and you're outside the NBA and your career is over. So you will adapt and show up and be on time and go hard because it's self-serving. That's not the same fire that a lot of these kids have on the collegiate landscape. And the coaches, they're having a hard time dealing with that because that's not something that they're used to. So there it is.
Well, what's funny about that, Corey, is if you've noticed, if you've listened to some of these clips from these coaches the last month or so, you're starting to hear it. You're starting to hear coaches say, he gets paid a lot of money, man. He's got to fight over the screen. I don't understand this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we pay him a lot. They're
subbing a lot of the kids for sure.
They're starting to say, like, we pay him a lot of money to get this job done, or they're starting, like, they're not holding back. And also behind the scenes, I know this for a fact. There are agents, there are managers out there, management companies that understand, like, if X player doesn't perform, it makes us look bad because we are the ones that were pushing for extra money for this kid. You think they're going to come back to the well to you? Because they probably won't if they don't trust what you're trying to say or what you're trying to pitch, right? That's one of those things where, like, this is the game. You've basically tried to turn this into professional sports, and you basically have. But next year, Corey, everything changes. And if you don't understand that and you don't understand why, guess what? We're about to take a pivot. I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. All right, folks. One of the greatest things about this state is all the great things that we have, like from the edible standpoint or the cannabis standpoint, I should say. And Colt Cannabis is one of the best premium flowers in the state. By the way, Colt Cannabis, I've been to their facility. It is right down there in Vale. It is amazing. I could not believe the amount of attention to detail to the different strains of flower that they had. It was unbelievable. I've never been in a cannabis facility. It'll blow your mind. And Colt Cannabis has teamed up with Trulieve to be able to dispense all this great product out to you. And you could take advantage tomorrow, because tomorrow is Thursday and Colt Cannabis has a deal for you. Our friends at Colt Cannabis are now available at your local Trulieve with a huge variety of premium flower. It's Thursday tomorrow, so you know what that means. Deal day for our friends Colt Cannabis at your local neighborhood Trulieve. 2 of these Colt jars for $70. That's $35 a jar. What a deal. We love Colt Cannabis and we love Trulieve. Get over to trulieve.com, find your local dispensary, and get these Colt jars before they run out. Also, be sure to check out the new Trulieve location opening in Maricopa on January 11th. Shout out to all my Maricopa peeps. And get over to trulieve.com to find your local shop or place in order, and tell them your friends at PHNX sent you. And while you're, vibing is what we'll say, you probably want to be chilling with some cool sunglasses, and you can get a great pair over at shadyrays.com, because Shady Rays will hook you up. If you just go straight to the website, Shady Rays are going to hook you up with 20% off. And I'm not discouraging you to do that, but you should. But if you want to save a little bit of extra Skrilla, you can save 35% by using promo code PHNX and get yourself a pair of sunglasses that have been rated 5 stars by over 500,000 people. Actually, 600,000 people now. We keep climbing up. So Shady Rays has got all different types of lenses, and they got the polarized sunglasses. They got golf lenses, which help you see when you're out there on the golf course a little bit clearer. They got athletic wear. They've got, designer wear. It is fantastic. You can't go wrong. And if you are in the Valley and you want to go out to the Kierland Commons location, they will honor that code in person. And so you can get your hands on a pair right there, then and there, and you can try on all this different styles. So shadyrays.com, save yourself 35% by using promo code PHNX, and we appreciate you. All right. So a little bit of a change in the college landscape. If you don't know, the House came up with a settlement, which is obviously still in the works in terms of lawyers will be involved, obviously. But basically, they're going to put what we call a salary cap on every single athletic administration. And that cap, let's just say, for instance, the cap was $20 million, right? You get a portion of that $20 million that will go to football. A portion of that will go to basketball and volleyball and all the other sports, right? The way I have heard it from 4 different athletic directors is that obviously football is going to get a majority of that pie because they bring in a majority of the revenue, right? And because of that, let's just say they get like 70%, which might seem high to you, but listen, when you have 85 scholarship athletes and they all are wanting to get paid, it's going to take that amount of money to keep them all happy to get your program up to where it needs to be, right? So that other 30% will probably get dispensed a different way. And it's up to every athletic administration and how they're going to dispense that. So if we take, for example, let's just say $20 million went to Arizona and 70% of that, boom, went off to football. That's $14 million gone out of the pie. You have $6 million left to distribute between basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball, and so on and so forth, right? Athletic directors are going to start looking at revenue and what you're bringing in. And those sports that do not bring in a significant amount of revenue, they're not going to get a significant portion of the pie. That's just what it is. And more importantly, you got 15 scholarship athletes on a basketball team. All right, let's just talk men's basketball. Let's just say they get 10% of that pie or 15% of that pie. It's the coach's responsibility now to take a look and figure out, okay, who's getting what fraction of that percentage? And that's where everything is going to change, because no longer can you offer $8, $9, $10 million to one kid for 1 year. That's going to be gone to a certain degree. Now, some programs might still do it, but there's other ways to be able to create revenue and other aspects. But I'm here to tell you that the game is changing a little bit as we move along. And as they figure this out, this is the dynamic of college sports that is significantly going to change and is going to affect everybody across the board. I think revenue sports and non-rev sports, that's going to be an argument that a lot of people have. Like if your softball program or your swimming program is not creating revenue, is it fair that those athletes don't get what they feel like they deserve? It's going to be completely up to every administration. And so when it comes to men's basketball, I think this is actually better for Arizona, in my opinion, because it evens out the playing field and you don't see the haves and the have-nots as much anymore because of said donor in Texas or said donor in Alabama or said donor at LSU. I think it's more going to even it out, but it's still going to be a challenge to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting equitable value. Football, man, I hate to be a part of a football program because quarterbacks are going to get the premium dollar because they typically do. How's everybody going to else feel about that? What's the star receiver and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. I just want to kind of educate everybody. And I don't know what Corey knows about this. Corey, have you heard about this at all?
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I think it's a good step in the right direction. My frustration is simply this, and I'll be very brief. They need to go ahead and close the loop. They've adopted the pro model 75%. They need to close the loop. What's missing? They have no ability to collectively bargain with the players. The players, I don't want to be political and say they have to have a union, but you have to have someone else bound to the same contractual obligations that you're bound to. Otherwise, this just doesn't work. I mean, right now, the school's making an offer to the quarterback. They've got no ability to contract with the offensive lineman. He goes in the portal. They train, they invest, they put resources into a kid just so a bigger and better school can come buy him at the end of the season. Like, there has to be, if you're going to go with the pro model and let kids get paid, go full circle, button it up. You've got an agent, you've got a contract, and you've got a union. And the kid can't just transfer because he doesn't like it anymore. If somebody wants to take a kid from your program, Notre Dame wants to take a kid off of NAU, guess what? You got to compensate NAU. Pay out that. You've got to have something in place that gives these people some type of system that they're already used to. But right now, the big complaint that I hear from coaches is, we find a kid that was under recruited, we develop them, and then somebody buys them from us. And I got to start all over again. If you really want to save college sports, save the CFP, save March Madness, you might as well take that final step, close the loop, make the play. If you want to play Division I athletics, you have to join a union. You can sign a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, 3-year deal, whatever, but the terms of that deal are universal across the country. You can't just, I don't like coach no more, so I'm going to leave. Fine. Find somebody to buy you out, and you can be on your way. As simple as that. That's what the pros do. So I don't understand why they don't take that final step. I know it will be difficult to create this entity that all college players must be a part of so that they can enter into contracts and then schools can have some type of leverage. Because, Saul, that's what we're really talking about. Talking about the schools trying to get their leverage back because they lost it completely. And I won't get into that, but it's insane what's going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. A couple comments in the chat. First, can we defer our payments to 2040? That's a good one, Max. I like that. And then June says, does NIL take some of the fun out of the game? I would say it takes a little bit of the fun out of the college game to a certain degree, but once the games start, you're in it, and I'm cool with it. But what I would say is like, it's hard for me to invest into a player because I don't know if they're coming back. I want to have that same feeling as like a TJ McConnell when he transferred and he came here and he was here for 3 years, right? You can buy into him and you knew he wasn't going to leave. The greats of Arizona past, football or basketball, women, men, doesn't matter. Like, you got to invest into these players because you really got to know them and you wanted to root for them, and you're locked in. But now, because you don't know if said player is going to leave at the drop of a hat after the season's over, hell, some of them are leaving before their season even finishes. It's just wild. And so that's the joy that I don't like, because it's like you're living on the edge every single week, and you just never know with kids what they're going to decide.
Well, here, I'll put it where the GOATs can get it, because I just did a game up at Arizona State last night. Everybody knows where I went to school. They know where my loyalty lies. That's the day job. That's the job. I went and did the job. But I'm loyal to Arizona. I first stepped foot in Tucson in 1992, almost 30 years ago, I think. I'm loyal to Arizona. Everybody who loves the Wildcats, their hearts are filled with loyalty for this school. They will
Absolutely.
download the app. They will stay up late to watch the games. They root for the school. It doesn't matter if I turn on Arizona women's volleyball and I'm sitting in the airport. I'm rooting for that Block A. So you've got the fan who's in this horrible position of having their hearts filled with loyalty, and you don't necessarily believe there's loyalty in the hearts of those young people out there playing, because they come and go as they please. And it does, as an alum, I'm going to be brutally honest here, it kind of gets me upset that they just come, use the A as a trampoline, and bounce down to their NBA careers. And it's like, damn, they just using the A to get to where they want to go. And the fan bases, we're not getting the wins, we're not getting the championships, we're not getting anything. And the donors are shelling out the money, and the kids are just passing through. I don't want mercenaries. And I think I speak for a lot of fans. They don't want mercenaries at any school. Right now, you got the CFP. Ohio State fans know what was paid for what's supposed to happen next week. They know how much money was raised and handed out. And if they don't pop champagne and win that title, you're going to have a lot of people upset. Notre Dame, one of the best sports traditions in the history of all sports. There's been documentaries on Notre Dame sports. That's a legacy that now has to compete in the NIL era, where kids may go to Notre Dame for the bag and not the legacy. And fans, it's just a tough spot to be in when you know you're loyal and will remain loyal, but the kids may not. It's a tough spot to be in.
It's a very tough spot to be in. We won't belabor the point, but I wanted to bring that up because it is information that is vital and important to you. And as we get more details coming forward, obviously we'll talk about the impact that would have on Arizona men's basketball. But like I said, I just wanted to throw it out there for you guys so you can take a look. But let's get into Texas Tech, because that's a big game. They're going to Lubbock on Saturday. Huge matchup. Texas Tech, a little bit of a funky team. Like, they can easily beat Arizona. Like, that's I don't think anybody would ever debate that. They've had close games. They've had some good, all around games. They played Iowa State in one of the better games of the season so far. Went to overtime, and they lost by 1. But they battled, and they had a 13-point lead at one point. And then they bounced back, and the other night or yesterday, they went to Kansas State in Manhattan, and then they got the dub on the road. Being down, the opposite happened. They were down by 13. They came back and ended up winning. So I think when you're looking at Texas Tech, they got a lot of pieces. So ball up top. All right. So you're looking at Elijah Hawkins. He's their point guard. He's a little mighty might, man. He's a little bulldog. He's like a little terrier, I would say, man. He's just a little water bug out there. He's quick. He's fast. He's a facilitator for that team. But him and then Williams, those are the two guys that I look at in terms of like Williams. To me, he's going to play kind of a power forward position. I put Toby Awaka on him instead of Trey Townsend, because Awaka physically can match up better against him than Trey Townsend. Now, I know how Trey just played against Amir, but Williams has got a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit of a better bag. He can hit you from outside. He can hit you down low on the post. He's got some nice moves down there. I think that he's their best player, best all-around player. And not only does he lead the team in points, but he also, I think he averages 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. He's got the second most amount of assists on the team next to Hawkins, and he's only behind him by 2 assists. That's how good of an all-around player Williams is. Like, just solid all the way around. They're a good team. Nobody individually like really sticks out, but they got 4 guys that score in double digits. They're going to be a handful in Lubbock, because they definitely play way better at home than they do on the road.
Darian Williams is a pro. Let's just
you saw them against BYU.
Oh my God.
Yes.
The man scored the last 10 points of the game like he was brushing his teeth. Excuse me, ball please. Crab dribble, jump hook, up and under and one, fade away, free throws, game over, bye-bye. And everybody on Texas Tech was like, oh, 2 minutes to go. Darian, come here. Superman went in the damn closet or the phone booth and came out and looked like Bradley Beal. That's who Arizona will be playing when they play against Texas Tech. Trust me, when you see how he's built and you see the way he plays, is Bradley Beal from the Suns. I'm not even exaggerating. Don't believe me. He may not require a double team initially, but if the game is tight and that place gets to rocking, he can shoot the three. He's just as strong as Toby. He's yoked. I like his game. The guards are lightning quick. They in the last time I saw him, they was at BYU, and they just came out and deboed the game. They just really did. They were like, nah, you're not going to get to set a screen. We're not going to let you cut through the lane. We're going to push you out. They've got one of the best names in college basketball, Federico. That's all I'm going to say.
Federico.
Man, when this brother hits the court, he blocking everything. He dunking everything.
Kev, can we put that on the list?
I'll talk to Damon, but I think that's a part of the list for sure. Federico.
Come on, man. Can you believe these guys have a list of the best names in college basketball that Arizona has played, and they left Day Thomas off, and now Kevin is questioning whether Federico goes on the list? Why do you have to co-sign with Damon, man? Come on.
That's my co-host. We're a team. That's my co-host. I think it deserves to be on the list, but I gotta check in with the teammate, see what he thinks. But it should go on the list. I'm saying it's deserving.
That's a no-brainer. He's a little raw, but man, they just come off that ball screen, and I swear they just throw it up to the top of the square, and he just comes flying in, grabs it, dunks it, and then he just lightly jogs back like, light work. That's nothing. I'm like, man. And I went to shoot around, and I saw him. Teams, everybody looks good at shoot around. They were still doing the shoot around stuff during the game. That's when I was like, oh, damn, Texas Tech, they're a little bit thuggish. Like, they really get after you. They don't care. And you're right. They play hard at home. Lubbock, Texas. God bless the fans that are traveling to that game. I've never been to Lubbock, but even the players told me they were happy to be in Provo just to get the hell out of Lubbock. So that tells you that's not me. That was them. They told me that. So it is what it is, man.
I still can't fathom how Texas Tech can pull like they do. Like I don't. They have the number one football transfer portal class in the country, and I'm like, how?
What's happening is this Texas oil money is going to reshape college basketball. If they don't get this under wraps right now, it won't take long because the pockets in Texas are so deep. The alumni bases are so huge. They can give every offensive lineman $500,000 and never feel it if they ever started to get involved. If these folks get off the sidelines and start jumping in the NIL pool, all the Texas schools, nobody else going to stand a chance because the pockets are that deep. So the salary cap has to come. Now, don't get me wrong. Northern California, the tech giants, they could get involved with their money. Silicon Valley could start making Cal and Stanford a powerhouse. Who knows? But right now, I'm starting to see that oil money pop up in college basketball because that's the only reason you got to pay me to go to Lubbock, Texas.
I'm just saying, Google and Apple, I think, are building factories out there just outside of Tucson. So, hey, bring all that tech money. I don't give a shit. Let's go. And then JT Toppin also, he's been a little banged up, but he's coming back now. Get back into form. He's also a high-level producer, can score. He can sneakily hit you with a couple threes from the outside, but that's not really his game. His game is around the rim, mid-range, athletic kid. I just think overall, Arizona matches up to me. I think they match up pretty well with Texas Tech. But again, you have got to be as solid as you were defensively against Baylor in the first half against Texas Tech from start to finish, because that is definitely a team, Corey, we talked about, like, when is it going to catch them? F around and find out if you're up by 15 in the second half and they start to get on a run. It'll be an avalanche like you will not believe, and then it'll be over, and you'll be like, damn, what just happened? We just lost by 10? Yeah, because they're that good. But at the same time, Arizona's also playing at a high level. They present some matchup problems for Texas Tech as well, because Federico doesn't start for them. He comes off the bench, but he does play significant minutes. It's just overall, I think Arizona and Texas Tech, this is a really good matchup. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, the Arizona team from the last 2 weeks, they can go in there and win this game. The good news for Arizona is you've already played this game. This is TCU, this is Baylor, this is West Virginia, this is Cincinnati. There's not a whole lot of difference in style of play, even the quality of players. So you've played this game 4 times already, but you got to dig deep and remember what it took to win those 4 games, because it's going to take the same things in Lubbock to beat this team. Now, Arizona went from being talked about to pitied to questioned to criticized to now some would say the target is back on Arizona. How do you play when you are the hunted again? They were the hunted in the first 8 or 9 games of the season, and they were getting dropped. Now they're on the uptick, and people know, hey, there's some limelight to be stolen. There's some headlines to be grabbed. We got top-ranked Arizona coming in here next week. Yeah, the energy's going to change. So mental toughness for the Wildcats. I think they're going to get the win, but it's going to be about toughness.
An afternoon game in Lubbock is always a difficult thing. Corey, afternoon games for you on the weekend, I always felt like they were some of the most iconic games of all time. You know, I think about the matchups when you guys would have to go over to, oh man, why am I forgetting the Oregon arena back in the day?
MacArthur Court.
MacArthur Court. Like those, it always felt like you guys were playing in the afternoon against them, or at home against UCLA in the afternoon on a Saturday. Like it just always feels like those are grinded out matches. And this time in Lubbock against a really good Texas Tech team. I've seen Texas Tech play up front in person, and they are physical. They get after it defensively, and they can cause a little bit of havoc in a different style way. And they will get out and run. They will get out and run compared to the other teams that you have played so far, who are a little bit not as transition worthy. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I really do. I'm looking forward to the atmosphere. And listen, we might, the country might have slept on Arizona for a little while. We didn't, but I promise you, those Lubbock fans know who Arizona is. They want a piece of Arizona, and they're going to be ready because they are loud and they are proud for sure.
And I can tell you from a player perspective, we love the early noon games, the 2 o'clock games, because you just want to hoop. Like you did all this travel, you get there the night before, you wake up, you have shoot around, it's game day. You go to team dinner, so go lunch, it's game day. Then you go back to the hotel and you sit around for 2 or 3 hours, it's still game day. Like, man, can we just go ahead and play? And you don't tip till 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But when it's a 12 noon, it's like, okay, breakfast, let's get to the gym, let's go. Like you want to get to the game right away. The afternoon games are always fire because the waiting around is such a drag on game day. There's not a player in sports that likes to wait to play. It's like you wake up, okay, I'm stretched, I'm warmed, I done had a meal, we wait 2 or 3 hours, let's go. But if you got a late night tip, it's just more time for you to sit around and think and, you know, get tired or lose focus. But yeah, noon games, we always love those. Get in. And the other thing about them is back in the day, we flew commercial, so we could go straight to the airport after the game. Back home the same night. But now it's charter everywhere, so it doesn't matter when you play.
It's true. It's true. Well, hey, folks, we do appreciate you all joining us tonight on the McKale Madness podcast. Before we go, just a quick tip. If you're streaming this or if you're watching us on any of the other platforms, make sure you go over to gophnx.com to catch the rest of this. I just want to get to one last little nugget before we leave. Corey, Ohio State, Notre Dame on Monday. Obviously, who you got?
I think Ohio State is just gonna be a little too much offensively. I think Ohio State will win.
I'm going with Notre Dame, simply for the reason why I just came across this the other day. But Notre Dame starting quarterback Riley Leonard used the ball back in the day, and Corey, take a look at these highlights because guy was no joke. He could get up, like I mean, he's just yakking all over the place, off the glass. Woo! I mean. Riley Leonard, he had hops, as they would say.
He got some bounce. I mean, but you know me, I'm a real hooper. I'm looking at the stands. Okay, that row of bleachers is 6 rows deep. There's 35 people in the gym. He looked like he dunking on a lacrosse team and a chess club. Ain't no real hoopers out there, but I'm going to rate his mechanics. Yeah, he got some one-legged bounce. He going hard to the rack, but at the same time, I'm looking at the crowd and I'm looking at the gymnasiums, and I know this is not elite basketball we're watching. So I'm going to respect the game. I'm going to respect the hops. But come on, bro. You was playing in front of 9 people against the French club and, you know, I don't know that Zion Williamson, and there wasn't no elite, you know, competition out there. But I'm not hating. I'm just being an analyst, and I analyze that. So
you saying he's out here playing against like Orm High School and and Beaver Creek High School
Keep
and
playing against them
Mogollon
schools
High
where
School.
they don't have enough to play 5-on-5 till the football team finish the season. Then 6 or 7 dudes come over and then join the team. So you out there yoking on part-time hoopers. You ain't in downtown Philly or Chicago with all of that. You out there, you know what I'm saying? And dude rode his tractor to the game and all that. I ain't trying to, come on, man. Miss me. See, that's the problem with this generation. Now, let me get started on that.
Oh, my goodness. That's
Miss
hilarious.
me with the little YouTube corn highlight reel from the State Farm John Deere, sponsored by John Deere and Menards Home. I'm not trying to, come on, man. He went to football. He went to football because his ass belonged in football. Wasn't nobody recruiting that. Did he get offered? Did he get offered?
I'm not sure. Sure.
Oh, yeah.
He might have. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, yeah.
Part-time hoopers. That's
McBee
classic.
State. You know what I'm saying?
You got everybody in the chat just laughing. So
hey, dog.
I knew you were going to give me a good take, so I had to throw that out there. So
I'm just saying.
Hey, I have it here. Riley Leonard was offered by Missouri State, North Alabama, Samford, Arizona played them this year, and St. Mary's.
Oh, St. Mary's.
Wait,
okay.
The real St. Mary's or like St. Mary's nursing school technology for nursing and hospital care? What St. Mary's you talking about? There's a lot of St. Mary's in the country.
I don't know if it was a vocational school or not, but
St. Mary's School for the Blind. Come on, man. You can't just throw that. I'm defending Randy Bennett right now because Randy goes to Australia and gets hoopers. He sends cats to the league. You telling me Randy was giving this kid mail, emailing and texting this kid? That's a bold accusation, Kel. Check your sources. Check your sources, because I'll call Randy. I get Roxy on the phone. We'll get with Randy. Like, Randy, was you really recruiting this kid? I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm being funny. I mean, yeah, an offer is an offer. I mean, hell, it's free school. I love it. Yeah, but no, he definitely got some athleticism. And here's the thing: we'll know everything we need to know after the first quarter. If Ohio State comes out conservative and they end up punting a couple of times, and time of possession favors the Irish, it's a long night. Because what I do know is you can't put the ball in harm's way in a national championship game. So despite your high-powered offense, you're not going to be throwing the ball all over the field if you're down 3-0 or 7-0 or 10-0. So it's important that Ohio State take and keep the lead the whole game. Because if they don't, you know what happens as the game wanes on, palms get sweaty.
Oh, yeah.
And that playbook gets thinner and thinner and thinner and more predictable because we can't risk a pick. And so we'll see. But I think Ohio State will jump on them early. The way they demolished Oregon was just like, oh my goodness.
They got that feel to them.
Yeah, like, come on, man. That was insane. And now it makes me question Oregon. Like, why was everybody just the consensus number one with Oregon? And the way they got smoked, it was bad. It really was. But anyway,
it was bad. If you haven't followed along with all the portal information and all the transfers and the coaching updates, you should follow around PHNX_Wildcats. Kev is the host of that, along with Damon Dog. Also, Arizona offensive coordinator Seth Deji will be joining them this Friday at 12 o'clock as well. They're going to ask him all the fun questions and trying to figure out what this offense is going to look like, because it was not great last year, and hopefully it'll be much better. So that's Corey Williams. You can follow him at College Corey on Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow me at Saul_Bookman. Make sure you go like this video before you leave, and then also subscribe to the McKale Madness podcast. Leave us a 5-star review and leave us a review. That'd be fantastic. We really appreciate it. You got something, Corey?
No, just rock with us, baby. We selling you sunglasses and weed. I mean, what else you need?
Shout out to Kevin, superstar Kevin. You can follow Kevin behind the scenes at Kevo Post as well. Until next time, y'all, we love y'all. Bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.